In a single night, a queen lost everything. Before the eyes of the empire, she defied her king, and the crown was torn from her head. Her name erased. Her throne left empty. The empire trembled, for if a queen could fall, who was safe? The palace doors closed, but the echoes of that night spread far beyond its walls. In the marketplaces, in the kingdom, in the whispers of servants and soldiers, everyone knew the throne now stood bare. But what happened next wasn't what anyone expected. And if you want to see how it all unfolds, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. You won't want to miss what comes after this. And somewhere, far from the glitter of the palace, a girl no one noticed lived her quiet life. She had no riches, no title, no name of worth. Yet without warning, her life would be torn from the shadows and thrust into the fire of the palace. A crown had been lost, but another story was just beginning. Right in the palace, the banquet was loud, overflowing with wine and laughter. Golden cups clashed on tables, music pounded against the walls, and the smell of roasted meat filled the air. King Darian sat high on his throne, surrounded by nobles eager to feed his pride. But beneath the laughter was unease. Enemies pressed at the borders. Rebellion whispered in faraway towns. And as the king's men talked about his power, one voice cut sharper than the rest. "My lord," a noble said, raising his goblet, "the empire is strong because you are strong. But does your strength command even your own household? Or is it only feared on the battlefield?" The words rippled through the hall. Some laughed nervously. Others grew silent. The king's jaw tightened. Another voice followed. "If loyalty is weak in your palace, why should the provinces obey? Call your queen, my lord. Let her stand before us. Let all see that even she bows when you speak." The king's pride burned. He slammed his goblet down, red wine spilling across the table. "Summon Queen Soraya," he roared. "Bring her before us in her royal robes. So the empire will know my word is final. No one dares to disobey my word." Servants hurried through the corridors, robes brushing against stone. They stopped at the queen's chamber door, bowing low. "My lady," they said softly, "the king calls for you. He wishes you to appear at the feast." Queen Soraya leaned against the doorway, her eyes heavy with disdain. "Tell the king I am tired," she said coldly. "I will not parade myself before drunk, jobless men at this hour." The servants glanced at one another nervously. "Please, my lady," one whispered, bowing deeper. "The king waits. All the nobles are there." Soraya's eyes flashed. She stepped forward, her voice sharp. "Did you not hear me? I said I will not come." When one of the servants dared to plead again, she slapped her. The sound cracked through the corridor. "Get out," she shouted, slamming the door in their faces. "Tell him I will not come. I need no man's command tonight." The servants stood frozen, trembling, before stumbling back toward the banquet with their dreadful news. "She will not come, my lord," they told the king. The hall erupted. Gasps, whispers. Men muttered. Women covered their mouths. Advisors shook their heads and pressed close, hissing, "This cannot stand. If the queen defies you, every wife in the empire will defy her husband." The king's face darkened, but he said nothing. The feast ended in uneasy silence. By morning, his fury had grown. He sent word to the queen again, but Queen Soraya would not bow, would not apologize. Unmoved, unashamed, his advisors returned and said, "You must act. If you remain silent, the empire will crumble and her footsteps will be followed by others. Remove her crown. Strip her of her title. Let her be queen no more." And so it was done. Soraya was banished. Her name erased, her crown gone, her throne empty. But the echoes of her rebellion carried far beyond the palace. Into markets, into the quiet homes where ordinary people whispered that the queen had fallen and the throne stood bare. Far from the noise and ruin, in the narrow streets of the city, lived a young orphan girl named Alara. Alara was no queen, no noble. She had no jewels, no name of worth. Raised by her cousin David, a quiet scribe, she lived hidden in the shadows. She was shy, too afraid to stand in crowds, but she could never turn away from pain. In the marketplace, she saw a boy crying, his toy broken. She wiped his tears with her sleeve and gave him bread from her pouch, though it was all she had. That was Alara, small, unseen, but kind. She dreamed only of a safe life, away from the reach of power. But destiny does not ask what we dream sometimes. For even as Alara wiped the tears of a child, soldiers thundered into the streets. A decree rang out. Every young virgin in the empire was to be taken to the palace. And soon, the girl who longed for nothing but peace would be led through the palace gates, into a contest that could decide not only her fate, but the fate of her family. The soldiers came at dawn. Their boots struck the ground hard as they walked down David Street. Neighbors peeked from their doors, holding their breath. The king's decree had reached every corner of the empire. All young virgins were to be brought to the palace. When the soldiers stopped at David's door, Alara froze. Her heart thumped like a drum in her chest. She turned to David, her hands shaking. "I don't want to go," she whispered. David's face was pale, but his voice was steady. He held her shoulders and looked straight into her eyes. "Alara, listen to me. You must be brave. Say nothing about who you are. Hide it. Keep it safe. Do you understand?" Her tears spilled, and she clung to him. "I can't do this." David pulled her close, his arms strong around her. "You can. When you are afraid, breathe slow. Speak little. And never forget, your worth is not in a crown." The soldiers stepped forward, impatient. David placed a scarf over Alara's hair, and he whispered, "This is not the end. It is only a road. Be strong." Alara's fingers gripped his sleeve until the guards pulled her away. She stumbled as they led her down the street. She looked back once. David stood in the doorway, his hand pressed against the frame, as though he could hold her there. The palace gates rose high above her, iron carved with beasts and vines. They opened with a groan, and the girls were marched inside. When the gates shut behind them, the sound was heavy and final. Freedom was gone. The courtyard was filled with virgins, dozens, maybe hundreds. Some wore silks, some carried jewels, others lifted their chins proudly, certain they would be chosen. Alara had nothing, only her scarf. A girl in rich sapphire blue attire glanced at her and smirked. "Look at that one. She doesn't have anything on her. Even her clothes are used as rags in my house. The king won't even notice her." Another whispered loudly, "She will be forgotten and thrown out before the week is done." The words burned, but Alara kept her head low. She whispered to herself, one breath at a time. 1, 2, 3. They were taken into long lines. Scribes asked their names, their ages, and their homes. When Alara said her name, the scribe barely looked up before waving her along. The virgins were divided into groups. Attendants led them through tall corridors, into washing rooms filled with steam. Servants scrubbed them with oils and water, combed their hair, and pressed perfumes into their skin. Some girls complained. Some bragged. Alara stayed quiet, her hands folded in her lap. From across the room, the girl in blue came with other girls to Alara's corner and mocked her again, saying, "The king will never choose a street rat. She'll be back in the dust before long." Alara's chest tightened, but she stayed silent. Silence was her shield. They dressed the girls in clean linen with a faint scent of fruit. For a moment, Alara saw herself in a bronze mirror. She did not recognize the girl staring back, tidy, washed, her hair smooth. But her eyes still trembled. Later, a deep bell tolled. The sound rolled through the halls, and the room grew still. A palace official stepped forward. His voice echoed, "Tonight you will sleep in the east quarters. You will be given food, clothing, and rest. In the days to come, some of you will be dismissed. Others will remain. A few will be presented before the king. Remember, your conduct matters as much as your beauty." Some girls lifted their chins, sure of themselves. Others looked frightened. Alara closed her eyes and remembered David's words, "Your worth is not in a crown." She breathed in, breathed out, and stayed calm. The girls were moved once more. The air grew cooler as they walked down a narrow passage. Then the doors of the inner palace swung open. Alara stepped inside. Her breath caught. Endless halls stretched ahead, lined with marble columns that rose like trees. The floor shone like water under the light. Doors lined the walls, hundreds of them, each hiding something unknown. She stopped, unable to move. For the first time, the weight of the palace pressed on her like a storm. This was not home. This was not even a palace. This was a world, and Alara had just stepped into it. The palace became their prison. From the first morning, the virgins were led through strict routines. They were scrubbed until their skin burned, soaked in oils that left their bodies shining, and wrapped in silks that felt heavy on their shoulders. The reason was whispered often. The king would not look twice at a girl with scars, spots, or blemishes. He hated imperfection and could kill if any appeared before him with spots. Every inch of skin had to be smooth, every nail polished, every breath scented. It was not a day's work. It was 6 months of it. 6 long months of constant bathing, scrubbing, and daily training. They had very little time to rest. Some girls collapsed from exhaustion. Others cried in silence. A few were dismissed early when scars or marks were found on their bodies, or they couldn't perform well during the training. One by one, the numbers grew smaller. Alara endured quietly. She said little, listened more, and obeyed when told to sit, walk, or turn. Not all were as calm. Some mocked, some boasted. Among them, Korea, the noble-born girl in sapphire blue, still watched Alara with sharp eyes and said all sort of hurtful words. But Alara did not answer. She held her silence. One afternoon, during the months of training, a girl stumbled in the practice court. She tripped hard and scraped her knee. The others pulled away, afraid to be linked with weakness. But Alara bent down, helped her to her feet, and tied a cloth around the wound. She whispered, "Don't give up. You'll be fine." The girl's eyes watered in gratitude. From across the court, Silas, the palace official, had been watching. He had seen arrogance, cruelty, and pride from many. But this act of quiet kindness, small as it was, caught his attention. That night, he called Alara aside. His voice was low. "Listen to me, child. When your time comes, take only what is given. Do not ask for more." The king grows tired of vanity. He looks for something different and unique to catch his attention. Alara bowed her head, her heart beating fast. "Thank you, sire." The months passed, and one by one, the virgins were led to the king. One by one, they were rejected. And rejection in the palace was not simple. Once a girl was rejected by the king, no man in the empire wanted her. She carried the shame of having been refused by the king. She was marked for life. For many, rejection was the end of hope. Some even committed suicide after being rejected because they couldn't bear the shame for the rest of their lives. Each dismissal spread fear through the halls. Some wept, some begged. At last, Alara's turn came. One day, her name was spoken, clear and sharp in the quiet chamber, Alara. She froze, her breath caught in her throat. The room shifted around her. She knew what this meant. As the attendant gestured her forward, Alara closed her eyes for a moment and whispered a prayer under her breath. "O God of my fathers, please help me." When she opened her eyes, the lamps seemed brighter, the air sharper. She rose to her feet and stepped forward. The doors to the king's chamber waited. And for the first time, the orphan who once dreamed only of peace was walking into a moment that could decide her life, or end it. For weeks, virgins had been brought before the king, dressed in jewels, dripping with perfume, their voices sharp with pride. One by one, they bowed, smiled, and asked for more. More silks, more oils, more gold to dazzle him. And one by one, he turned them away. The throne room grew heavier each night. The king leaned back against his seat, his eyes dull, his spirit weary. Another one, he thought. Another vain face, another empty word. Then the doors opened. Alara stepped inside. She walked slowly, her scarf still tied, her steps steady. She had asked for nothing extra, taken nothing beyond what was given. No gold glittered in her body except the one given to her by the attendants. Her presence was quiet, her face calm, her eyes lowered. The courtiers whispered. Some smirked. Plain. Too simple. But the king leaned forward. Something in her stillness caught him. She stopped at the center of the hall, bowed her head, and waited. The silence stretched. The king spoke first, his voice rough from weariness. "What is it, that one thing you desire?" Alara lifted her eyes just enough to meet his gaze. Her voice was soft, but steady. "Only to serve you with honor, my lord." The words rang through the hall like a bell. Not flattery, not greed, just humility. The king's brow furrowed. He studied her, his eyes narrowing, searching her face. Who was this girl who asked for nothing when all the others begged for everything, including riches? For the first time in many nights, curiosity stirred within him. The hall grew still. The king rose slowly from his throne. Every eye followed him as he stepped down the marble stairs, his gaze fixed on the quiet orphan girl who had spoken words unlike any he had heard before. His eyes locked on hers, and in that moment, the room held its breath. Alera's breath caught. Her hands trembled at her side. All eyes followed him, waiting. He stopped just before her. For a moment, neither spoke. His gaze held hers, steady, searching. Alera whispered in her heart, "God, let me not fail." And the silence grew heavier, as if the whole empire waited on what the king would do next. The king turned, and his command shook the palace. "Summon the people. Today, a queen shall be crowned." Trumpets blared across the city. Torches lit the courtyard. From the poorest merchants to the highest nobles, the people pressed into the square, eager to see who would take Soraya's empty throne. The girls remaining in the palace were also to heed the king's call because the contest was over. The girls who were supposed to present themselves before the king after Alera were no longer given the opportunity because the contest had ended. The people immediately gathered, and the crown was carried forward on velvet, its jewels glinting under the light. The priests raised their voices in blessing, the drums rolled, and the crowd fell silent. Then Alera stepped out, the orphan no one believed in. The girl mocked for her plainness, the virgin who asked for nothing. Whispers swept through the square. Some gasped in wonder, others muttered in envy. At the edge of the platform, Korea's face burned with rage. She leaned close to her companions and said angrily, "This is not over." But her fury was drowned out when the crown was lowered onto Alera's head. The square erupted. Cheers from the common people, murmurs from the nobles, silence from those who hated her. Alera's breath shook as the weight pressed down. "Why me? I am not better than the others." Her knees trembled, but then she caught sight of David in the crowd. Tears glistened in his eyes, but his smile was steady. He pressed his hand to his chest and mouthed the words, "I am proud of you." When he was able to draw near, he whispered softly, "God has lifted you higher than we ever dreamed because you put your trust in him. But remember, you are not alone. I will also watch over you even here." Her chest tightened. Gratitude filled her eyes. That night, when the drums quieted and the lights dimmed, Alera sat alone in her chamber. She placed the crown on the stand beside her, then sank to her knees. "Thank you, Lord," she whispered. "You chose me when I was nothing, but I know this is only the beginning. Give me strength for what is to come. Help me fulfill what I am sent here for." She rose and stepped onto the balcony. The empire stretched before her, torchlights like stars across the night. The crown felt heavy on her head, not just with gold, but with the burden of what it meant. The orphan had become queen, but as she looked out over the empire, her heart trembled with one truth. This crown is not the end. It is the beginning of another battle. And the story of Alera, the queen who was once an orphan, had only just begun. The orphan had become queen, but this was only the beginning. In the days to come, Alera would face choices greater than herself. Choices that could cost her crown, her people, and even her life. And hidden within her bloodline was a secret. One that, if revealed, could shatter the throne, or, if guarded, might save a people. If you were in Alera's place, crowned, yet surrounded by enemies, would you trust them, or rule in silence? The crown may glitter, but every smile hides a threat. And knowing no one truly knows where she comes from, would she dare reveal her secret, or keep it, even if silence meant danger? Tell me what you do in the comment section, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who thinks they are too small to be chosen. And if you want part 2, tell us in the comment section below. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can see the next story once we post it.